Manchester United are exploring a move that imitates their previous deal for Casemiro, this time targeting Real Madrid midfielder Aurelien Tchouameni, according to a report from Sport. Casemiro is expected to bring an end to his time at Manchester United after 4 seasons, closing a chapter that began with high expectations following his arrival from Real Madrid. With United likely to return to the Champions League next season, the club is already planning for his replacement. The name at the top of their list is Tchouameni. The French midfielder fits the same profile that made Casemiro such an attractive signing, a physically dominant defensive midfielder capable of controlling transitions and protecting the back line. United's idea is to replicate a similar transfer strategy that previously worked in convincing Casemiro. Despite what has been described as a largely underwhelming season for the club, the Frenchman has stood out as one of the most consistent performers. Understandably so, Real Madrid are in no position to let such a player leave easily. At 26 years old, Tchouameni is entering his prime and remains tied to the club with a contract running until 2028. On top of that, the Los Blancos are also planning a contract renewal for the Frenchman, making any potential deal extremely difficult from a financial standpoint. That said, player intent could play a decisive role. The precedent set by Casemiro's departure still lingers, as he left Madrid while still being an important figure, largely because he sought a new challenge. If Tchouameni were to express a similar desire, it could open the door slightly for negotiations. Even so, as things stand, the transfer appears unlikely. Real Madrid view Tchouameni as a cornerstone of their current and future midfield, and Manchester United would need both a significant financial push and the player's willingness to even think of pulling off this transfer. Meanwhile, United are expected to have at least one player on the sidelines for their clash against Liverpool this weekend. The Reds will host their bitter rivals in the Premier League clash at Old Trafford on Sunday afternoon as they look to clinch a Champions League spot. Michael Carrick has guided United to 3rd place in the Premier League table, and a win against Liverpool would see them secure a spot in Europe's Elite Cup competition for next season. However, Carrick has been forced to deal with several United players being unavailable since he took charge back in January, and that will be expected to continue on Sunday against Liverpool. The United interim head coach spoke to the media on Friday ahead of the clash against Liverpool and offered an injury update on his squad. Here, the Manchester Evening News takes a look at the latest United injury news and potential return dates. Matheus Cunha. United are hopeful that Matheus Cunha has recovered from injury to be able to feature against Liverpool. Cunha missed United's win over Brentford with a hip injury, but Carrick has explained why he hopes to have the Brazilian back in the squad for this weekend's fixture. Matheus has done a little bit of work, so we're hopeful. We're not sure, but we're hopeful, Carrick said on Friday. Potential return date, Liverpool, May 3rd, Premier League. Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw was substituted during United's win over Brentford last weekend, raising fears that the defender could be set for a spell on the sidelines. Carrick did not offer a specific update on Shaw's fitness, so it remains to be seen whether or not the England international will recover in time to feature against Liverpool. Potential return date, Liverpool, May 3rd, Premier League. Matthijs de Ligt. Matthijs de Ligt is nearing a return to action for United, having been sidelined with a back injury since November. De Ligt will not be available to face Liverpool, with Carrick offering an update ahead of the Old Trafford fixture. Matter, de Ligt, still a bit further and not involved in the game, said Carrick. Potential return date, unknown. Lisandro Martinez. Lisandro Martinez is still serving a suspension following his red card during the defeat to Leeds United last month. The match against Liverpool will be the final game of the 3-game ban, which will allow the defender to return to the squad next weekend. Potential return date, Sunderland, May 9th. Carrick oversaw a dominant win over Manchester City on his debut in the Old Trafford dugout before his side became the first team in Europe this season to win away to Arsenal. Victory over Tottenham, still classified as a Big Six side despite them being in a relegation battle, made it 4 wins in a row, although the enthusiasm about his start was deflated by the draws at West Ham and Bournemouth and disheartening defeats to Newcastle and Leeds. Carrick's project got back on course with a first win at Chelsea in 6 years, and Monday's victory over Brentford took United to the verge of sealing a top 5 finish and a return to the Champions League. Liverpool, like Chelsea, may have had a dismal campaign, suffering 10 defeats, but they remain the title holders and United's biggest rivals of them all, still giving Sunday's game big significance for Carrick. The interim boss will in all likelihood be given a new contract regardless of what happens against Arne Slot's side, but it's safe to say that a victory would rubber stamp his new deal. The results speak for themselves. United have won 8, drawn 2, and lost 2 of their 12 matches under Carrick. The 26 points they have amassed since his first game in charge would have put them top of the Premier League had the season begun when he took charge in mid-January. Ruben Amorim, for context, had taken 31 points from 20 league matches when he was sacked. United have scored 24 goals and conceded 14, a goal difference of 10. Amorim, again, had scored 34 and conceded 30 goals, a goal difference of 4. It should also be remembered that United finished the previous campaign under the Portuguese 15th in the table, with a goal difference of -10. The players seem to have a good understanding with Carrick, with the obvious caveat that they would be unlikely to tell the truth if they did not. But there does seem to be a clear improvement on his Portuguese predecessor in terms of the rapport the coach has with the squad. In other news, Manchester United could turn to Portuguese winger Rafael Leao, 26, in the summer, with AC Milan open to exploring a swap deal involving 28-year-old England forward Marcus Rashford, 25-year-old Uruguay midfielder Manuel Ugarte or Netherlands striker Joshua Zirkzee, 24. Milan might completely overhaul their attack in the summer, and an intermediary has begun working to bring Rafael Leao to Manchester United. The officials appear to have made up their mind after selling the Portuguese star amid his recent downturn in form and overall inconsistency and attitude, La Gazzetta dello Sport informs. The attacker only wishes to join a top team if he were to leave. He has manageable wages, €5.5 million plus bonuses. Instead, there's no shot his €175 million release clause gets activated. The Rossoneri could settle for €50 million or so, or concoct a swap. Leao could be a fallback target for Manchester United, which covered Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers, who's a lot more expensive than the Milan stalwart. He's also on Barcelona's radar. The Red Devils have a few players who could interest the counterparty, Joshua Zirkzee, Manuel Ugarte, and Marcus Rashford, who should return from a loan to Catalunya. The Serie A giants are ready to move on from Christopher Nkunku, Niklas Füllkrug, and Santiago Gimenez as well. They'll target a physical marksman first. Alexander Sørloth is currently the hierarchy's top option ahead of Nicolas Jackson and Goncalo Ramos, who are pricier. The former Bologna man has different traits and can easily fit next to a number 9 and Christian Pulisic. If the plan is to stick with 3-5-2, which looks to be the case, one between the Portuguese forward and the USMNT representative has to go. Such a front line hasn't worked, and they are too cumbersome not to be regulars. If they are open to creative solutions and malleable on the price tag, it won't be too hard. If he were to leave, Leao would leave Milan after arriving in the summer of 2019. He has a contract until 2028 that guarantees him €5.5 million net plus bonuses. United would have no problem paying him this amount or even more. However, it's impossible for Milan to get the money from his release clause, set at €175 million when they hoped he would join the world's best. Now Furlong would settle for a third. The boos from the fans at the last 2 home games, combined with his use in the unwelcome position of centre forward, are making Rafa think twice about leaving the club that has become so dear to him. The condition leaked from those close to him is that the offer must come from a top club, because he only wants to leave Milan for a club of the same prestige. For now, the move to Saudi Arabia is firmly rejected. We'll see in the future. Certainly, with his departure, the Devils would have the money to launch an attack on the Norwegian Sørloth, who wants to leave Atletico and is eyeing the Rossoneri, or to choose one of the other 9 they are keeping an eye on, from Jackson, returning to Chelsea, to Vlahovic, who still hasn't renewed his contract with Juve, by way of Goncalo Ramos, who Allegri likes like Sørloth, but costs more than the former Villarreal player. Meanwhile, Mason Mount has expressed his belief that Manchester United possess the necessary quality and mindset to mount a serious challenge for the Premier League title next season. The 27-year-old midfielder is nearing the conclusion of his 3rd campaign at Old Trafford, period marked by injuries, setbacks, and intense competition that have limited him to just 69 appearances since his move from Chelsea. Despite this, Mount maintains an unwavering self-belief, coupled with confidence in the capabilities of a United squad that Michael Carrick has guided to the brink of Champions League qualification.